tonight to have Michele Hughes and Dr. Chris Shade with us. I wanted to just let you know that this is one of our first webinars that we've opened up to other West Region forums. So tonight we have members from not only Northern California, but Southern California, Washington, and Nevada. So we're really excited to welcome you as well to this particular webinar. Just a couple of housekeeping items. We are going to be recording the session, and Marcia would tell us when we're going to start recording. Everybody will be on mute other than the two speakers, and then obviously we'll open it up later for questions. We would like you to submit any questions that you have through the chat function, the chat room on the application. Michele and Dr. Shade will actually be speaking for about 35 minutes. They have a lot of content to share with us tonight. So that'll go to about 5:50. And at that time, we'll stop. Marcia will give us the high sign and we'll start taking the questions from the chat room first and then open it up for any other questions that we could take live. They are available to stay longer than 6 o'clock, but we also want to be respectful of the time that you probably have blocked on your calendars, as we said this was going to be until 6. Okay, so with that, I'm excited to turn this over to Michele. Thank you so much for putting this together for us, and we're excited to hear from you.
Well, thank you so much, Barbara. Welcome. This is Michele Hughes. I'm one of the, I guess they call me an old buffalo. I was one of the founders of the IWF Northern California, and that's, I think, I hate to admit it, but about 40 years ago. So this organization is very near and dear to me, and I've wanted for a long time, since this COVID virus started 3 or 4 months ago, to do a session like we're doing tonight. The reason probably most compelling is that I started a podcast about 8 months ago called Ageless and Timeless. And I hope you like that title, because it really does speak to all of us women, that we are ageless and timeless and fearless, and we have a lot of desire to accomplish in our lives, and this virus has basically caused us to stop and take a pause. And I think that in ageless and timeless context, if you read my mission statement, you'll see that one of my goals is to have guests who can, through our guests, you can vicariously experience the challenges that all of us face. And this is not our first challenge. This is not our first rodeo. We've all faced obstacles and challenges in our lives. So I just want to say that this is just one more challenge. It happens to be that we're in this all together, and that at no time that I can remember in my life has my health been more important to me than it is right now. I have a lot of questions. I've asked Dr. Shade, who's going to be joining us in a few minutes. I've asked many of my expert friends. I've had many guests on my podcast. And the questions are, being answered, but we have a lot of conflicting information. So tonight, our goal is to focus on wellness, our health, and our well-being for all of us facing this crisis now, but this is not information that won't serve us throughout our lifetime. So everything happens for a reason, and I think all of us are recognizing that we've had a pause, that we're going inward. Most of us spend time in our doing, and this is allowing us to go to our being. So I would remind you, as we talk tonight, to think about yourself. That's something that a lot of women do not do. We think about others, and we're caregivers and nurturers. So I would say, if you can draw an imaginary line down a piece of paper, maybe later you can physically do it, and put a plus on one side and a minus on the other side, and just put down what this virus has meant to you on the positive side. What awareness have you gained? What insights have you learned about yourself? Try to be as positive as you possibly can be about the growth that this represents. Then on the negative side, why am I different having gone through this experience, and what is it that I've learned about myself that I can do better? So what matters most? What makes me happy? where can I improve to be better, stronger, and obviously healthier. So with that introduction, I'd like to introduce you to my guest. He's been a guest on my podcast. We've gotten to know each other. His name is Dr. Chris Shade, and we sent you a bio, which is, I think, quite thorough and impressive, so I won't spend too much time talking about what Chris has done, except to say that he has devoted his life to being to finding answers in nature through science. And this is something that we all need to focus on right now, because he is being extremely careful. Not one size does not fit all. We are not making any medical recommendations. We are only talking about information and education. And I think Dr. Shade will elaborate on that. So I asked him on my podcast to take the metaphor of building a house. I'm a developer by background, so I can't help myself. So if you take the background of building a house, normally the foundation is the detoxification system of our bodies. That's what we have to focus on in order to start building the walls and the rooms of the house, and then eventually get to the roof. However, at this time, we agreed that stress is so debilitating for so many of people that we need to focus on the foundation being stress. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Dr. Chris Shade and let him talk to us first about stress and how we can accomplish the objective of overcoming this challenges of this virus and de-stressing so that we can be more susceptible and ready to accept the rest of the program. So Dr. Shea, welcome.
Thank you very much, Michelle. First, let me sort of get a bigger picture. There's a couple things that we want to cover, and some are more immediate and some are more long-term. And so everybody wants to know, how do I keep my immune system up? So if I contact this virus, I'll either not have symptoms or I'll be able to handle it. And then if things get more acute, how does my body respond to it correctly? And that's the whole key here. You see, when people get sick, it's because of things that happen downstream of the infection and this runaway inflammation. And when that happens, it's because there's not enough of a balance in the body. And the balance in the body is not just in the immune system, but it goes into other aspects. So how do we develop the balance? So we don't have a lot of time, but along the way, maybe it'll be in the second half, we'll talk about here just your basics of immediate immune strength. And probably the core of that is vitamin D, which you usually get from the sun. But if you're not getting enough sun, especially this time of year, you're not going to have that. It's one of the biggest risk factors in here is a low vitamin D. So we'll talk about vitamin D, vitamin C, vitamin A, how to create some resilience in your immune system. But much deeper than that is where Michelle would like to go. And so she brought up the theme of detoxification. And sometimes this is a little bit of a hackneyed, overused theme, but it's something that every one of your cells is doing every moment of every day. And there are times you're doing more of that and times you're doing less of that. And then there's the quarterback of the whole scenario, and that's the liver. And the liver is taking these toxins, some of which are just from your own biology, some of which are from your food, things you breathed in, the ubiquitous junk all around us. And so your cells are processing them, your liver is moving it out into your GI, and it's going out to waste. So your liver is neutralizing these things. At the same time, your liver is deciding how to run your metabolism. People talk about things like keto diet and fasting and intermittent fasting, and we'll just breeze upon those. But these are very important themes. When we're eating all the time, our metabolism is stuck in always trying to store energy for later. This goes back to caveman times where you didn't have food all the time. So when you have a lot, you store it. But clarity in the system is formed in the times when you're not eating. And these are the times where you go and you clean up, you move out, you mobilize stored fat to use for energy, you mobilize fat out of your liver, you clean up this area around your cells, and you actually clean up the mechanisms and the machinery of your cells. Things like mitochondria that make energy, they are actually clean. Old ones are cleaned out and new ones are made in the times when you're not eating. And so as we age, I encourage people to do more what's called intermittent fasting. This is a very simple thing. It's basically skipping breakfast or skipping dinner. Having 2 meals a day allows us more time for the body to clear everything out. And along with clearing everything out, you are bringing up the potentiality of your immune system. The more junk you're holding, the more you affect and turn down your immune system. The cleaner you run, the better your immune system runs. So as we get into talking about detoxification and liver pathways, we'll understand that the purpose of that is to allow our bodies to work on a cleaner level. And we'll find that the benefits of that are that the mind works on a cleaner level. And well, that's good for us because we don't want brain fog. We don't want memory lapses. We want everything working clean. But there's a big part, and this is the stress game. There's a big part in the brain how we perceive stress and how it manufactures different signals from the body are driven through the brain. You respond to those signals, and is it going to put you in a fight or flight mode, or are you going to be in a rest, digest, repair, regenerate mode? So this is called the autonomic or automatic nervous system, and it's controlling all of the functions of your body in the background. Yeah, it's controlling your breath. You get anxious, you start breathing faster, your heart rate, it's controlling your heart, that starts going faster. But it's much deeper than that because it's controlling how much blood flow goes to each organ versus going to your muscles, how much you give your ATP, your cellular energy, over to processes of regeneration versus using it only for musculoskeletal energy. So those sides of the autonomic nervous system are called the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. The sympathetic, we're used to hearing about that and stress accentuating that side. That is what's called fight or flight. So a stimulus comes in, let's call it my wife. My wife comes in and I see she's mad. She's going to yell at me for something. And what do? I grab the end of my chair and I try to get out of there. And that's just that's a joking representation, but these are the filters that we have from our stimulus every day. And the more we're worried about things, the more the next thing comes up on CNN or whatever we watch, and it's about, my God, the virus is going to kill you. And what do? You go into fight or flight. And from a whole body perspective, where your blood goes, it goes to the muscles. It goes away from the organs. At a cellular level, no longer are the processes of cleaning the cells and regenerating and building them. No energy is given to those anymore. It's only given to, I gotta run away or I gotta fight it out with my wife. And there are times for that. There are times through your day when it's like, I got to handle this. There's a board meeting. There's a negotiation. I got to be on. But then there's times where you have to settle back down, and that's when everything regenerates. And if you can't get yourself out of fight or flight into rest, digest, repair, regenerate, detoxify, you are going to age faster. There is going to be more oxidative stress and less regeneration. And there's tons of biochemistry around this, but there's neurotransmitters in the brain that go along with those. And the one that goes with the fight or flight is also the one that's responsible for memory. But remember, memory comes from us from way, way back in time, and it's associated with survival. So along with memory also comes fear. Memory is good when we're remembering what we need to do, when we need to be on it, but when it won't shut off being on it, it starts firing too much and creating free radical stress in the body. It first creates anxiety and you're anxious about stuff, you're worried about stuff, and then it starts getting even more pathological. So you're actually starting to burn your brain out. It's called neuroinflammation. And at the same time, you're stopping regeneration of all of your cells. And you certainly shut off processes for moving out the trash, like detoxification. And to bring that back to the liver, every cell in your liver is designed to draw toxins from one side of its cell, from the blood, process them, and dump them out from the other side. And how it dumps them out into the flow of bile. Now, if you remember way back to school, what was bile? Bile is that bright green fluid that comes out of the liver, goes into the upper GI tract. It's first stored in the gallbladder and then released into the upper GI, where it digests our food. It's mostly concerned with emulsifying fats so that you can break them into little droplets and take them into circulation. But it's also that river of bile, that green river coming out, is also bringing all the toxins out, all right? And so it's detoxifying and digesting at the same time. Now, this is very important to women, because if you look at statistics around gallbladder removal, women are far more likely than men to have their gallbladders removed. Because what happens is when you go into a period of stress, you shut off the flow of bile. And it's not necessarily shut off just at a gallbladder level, but it's shut off at a liver level. So remember, the liver was supposed to take toxins, dump them into the bile. And it's doing that when the autonomics allow it to, when you're in parasympathetic or balanced with sympathetic. But when you go into the stress mode, you actually go and you shut down the bile flow out of the liver. You shut down the flow of toxins and you hold them inside because you have to do something. So why are more women more prone to doing this? Maybe because, through evolution, there was more of the stop-start during the day. Oh, I got to get the kid, he's crying. Now I got to breastfeed him. Oh, now I got to chase him over there. Oh, now I have to do this. And there was more segmentation to the day. Whereas the guys, what they do? They sit around all day. Then they're like, let's go out and kill something. And then they run off to the hunt and they're on it and they kill something. And then they're like, we're done for the day. Give it to the woman and then she can cook it up. And so for some reason, the men are a little bit more seamless with this, and the women are a little bit more stop and start. And when you chronically cut off the flow of the bile, yes, you chronically toxify yourself, but the bile starts to build up and solidify in the gallbladder, and that leads to the problems that lead to removing the gallbladder. So it's more important for women to do things to help the gallbladder move continuously, to move the toxins out of the body all of the time. So how do we do that? How do we keep that flow going? Now, one of the things that was really big through the early 1900s, and it was a big European tradition, is the use of herbal bitters. Herbal bitters are plant extracts. Now we know we see them in cocktails. You put them in an old fashioned and a Manhattan, but there was the Swedish bitters, and the Germans had their version of it. These are herbs like dandelion root, herbs like myrrh, gentian. Gentian is a very popular one, and cassia, and they all taste bitter. And the bitter taste in your mouth actually goes down into your liver and opens up that pathway and stimulates that pathway. But we see it's even bigger. As we look through the body and we've researched, we see that bitter receptors are all around. Bitter receptors are in the stomach. Bitter receptors are in the pancreas. That's why they're helping digestion. They're helping blood sugar. And for women, bitter receptors are even in the ovaries. So bitters become a big part when I have sort of my triplicity for women, and one part of that is bitters. There's another thing that helps the bile flow called phosphatidylcholine. Phosphatidylcholine is derived from lecithin. Now, you guys probably remember when lecithin was sort of this health food. It's used in baking and things like that, but phosphatidylcholine is derived from that, and it's constantly fed into the bile flow. It's usually made in your liver cells from choline, but you can get it right from lecithin. And it's responsible for keeping the bile flow thin and constantly moving and protecting all that machinery from damage from the bile. So movement of bile, and then is connected, remember, when you stress out, you block that. So one, there's relieving stress. And there are a lot of ways to relieve stress, from things that you do in your daily activities, meditation, yoga, my favorite being Tai Chi. Calm movement, calm breathing moves you into parasympathetic. Then there are things you can take from that, like the neurotransmitter GABA. You can supplement GABA. We make these liposomal sublingual GABAs, and CBD, you know, that's the cannabis thing that doesn't get you high. It balances very quickly the balance between glutamate, and I didn't tell you what the opposite of glutamate was. So sympathetic, parasympathetic, the neurotransmitter glutamate, the neurotransmitter GABA. GABA is rest, digest, repair, regenerate. That's the calm Zen one. The glutamate is the on it one. Now let's connect those to hormones. This is really important. And I encourage people to do bioidentical hormone replacement, even, you know, after menopause. Just keep that stuff going, because it's a real big part of how you balance your body. Otherwise, you have to kind of settle for a lower functioning subset of your body. So what are the poles for women in hormones? You know, testosterone we found is super important for women in maintaining drive, but that's not the yin-yang pair. The yin-yang pair is actually estrogen and progesterone. So estrogen is responsible for excitement and having energy, but it also makes you sympathetic dominant. It associates with higher activity of glutamate. Glutamate, remember, at one level, you're on it, you're remembering things. At the next level, you're anxious and irritable. Now, at a liver level, excess estrogen blocks your liver. So during pregnancy, there's the cholestasis of pregnancy. That's from excess glutamate over progesterone. So what does progesterone do? Progesterone opens up your liver, and progesterone activates GABA. That's why if you know, at certain periods of your life, you're estrogen dominant, you're going to be irritable. And then when you take progesterone, a sublingual troche or a capsule, immediately you calm down, you're not anxious, you're not irritable, and you sleep well. So it's very important to keep those balanced through your lives. And regular doctors generally don't know this. They don't know how to measure, how to control these things. But the doctors that work on what's called anti-aging medicine, or they're just hormone specialists, they're really good at that. And they can give you that extra edge. You know, they'll typically, for women, give you testosterone, progesterone, and a wee bit of estrogen just to keep everything rolling. And it's not that you necessarily have to keep all of the, your sexual function up and stuff, but that does bring that up. But it helps you balance neurotransmitters, helps you balance liver functions, and all of the things those do for you. So there's a lot of reasons to bring those up. So I covered a lot of ground there. I covered stress. It's blocking regeneration. It's blocking the liver. It's blocking detoxification. The antidote to stress is to calm down. And these are things, GABA, CBD, breathing, to make you more parasympathetic, opens up the liver. We talked about hormones that correspond to that, estrogen tightening up, progesterone loosening, and then testosterone giving drive to the whole thing. We talked about how to open up the bile with bitter herbs, phosphatidylcholine. Let me throw it back to you now, Michele, and say, what else do you want to cover? Because we only have about 10 minutes.
As long as you were talking about hormones, Chris, let's take a moment and talk about thyroid. And DHEA, because these are two often forgotten. I think thyroid is one of the most under-evaluated, and it's the cause of many illnesses that people don't understand where it's coming from. So could you take a couple of moments and just...
Absolutely. Okay, so in the hormone world, we have what are called the sex hormones, and then there's something called the glucocorticosteroids that derive from those, which are inflammation control hormones. So in the sex hormones, I gave you the basic ones, but let's go through a whole list. So going backward from traditional sex hormones, that's testosterone and estrogen, and then the female potentiator, progesterone. We talked about those. Now, upstream from those, things that can either go to becoming the inflammation controlling glucocorticosteroids or can become the sex hormones. You have DHEA. DHEA is great. It's great for metabolism and burning energy. It's great for the mind. It keeps you super straight. And above that is pregnenolone. Pregnenolone comes right after cholesterol. Why did I talk about cholesterol? Cholesterol, and this is a real problem. We are overusing statins and lowering cholesterol in people. And when they started making statins, they lowered the reference ranges for cholesterol to say what's healthy. So everybody's overusing statins and keeping their cholesterol too low. Here's the deal. Every hormone in your body is made originally from cholesterol. So when you become cholesterol deficient, you become hormone deficient. Now, I'm not saying throw away your statins, but be careful how you use them. And if you're blocking cholesterol formation, you're also blocking hormone formation. So cholesterol becomes pregnenolone, and then it becomes, it can go over to be the inflammation control, or it can go down to DHEA and then the sex hormones. So those are the ones you want your doctor to measure: pregnenolone, DHEA, testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone. Then there's the thyroid hormones. If you are tired, cold, have weight you can't lose, it's probably because your thyroid is under functioning. The thyroid is like the gas pedal on the whole system. It determines how fast you're going to burn your food, how much energy you're going to make, how much heat you're going to make. And when it goes down, you get tired, you get low drive, you gain weight you can't lose, you lose your eyebrows, which is one of the things to look at, and you lose your drive. Now, the things to measure there, TSH is the classic thing to measure, and most of your regular doctors will measure that. And when TSH goes up, it means your thyroid activity is going down. TSH is actually a signal from your pituitary to your thyroid. And the higher it is, it means the louder your pituitary has to yell to get it to make something. But that's just one part of the game. Then you have T4 and T3. T4 comes out of the thyroid and goes to the rest of the body. And when it gets there, it's converted to T3. And T3 turns the fire up. So you want to measure TSH, T4, and T3. Now, ideally, they'll measure what's called free T4 and free T3. And there's one more hormone in the thyroid retinue that you have to demand that they measure. It's called reverse T3. Reverse T3 comes up and blocks regular T3. And it's an anti-T3. And it gets in the receptors and it stops the activity. So your T3 may look good, but your reverse T3 is blocking it. Now, it's usually brought up when you're adrenal deficient. You've overworked yourself. You guys are all achievers. You've overdone it. Reverse T3 comes up and tells you to shut up and go home and go to bed and rest and get the system back up again. So if it's high, it's an indication that your body's trying to slow things down. But that's the picture of the thyroid. And so often you got all this other stuff in place, but you didn't have the thyroid in place, and then the energy of the system won't be up. And when the energy of the system is high on all these levels, you're detoxifying, you got your brain controlled, you got your hormones controlled, your immune system just follows suit and it'll be strong. But let's at least hit on what are the majors for your immune system.
And before you do that, Chris, I was going to ask you to preface that by saying a lot of people don't know that 70% of our immune system is in our GI tract. And so in order to really talk about immunity, we need to talk about the microbiome and the GI tract. But I know we're going to run out of time.
Yeah, well, I'll be able to cover it quick. I'm going to hit the majors for the immune system and then a quick, here's how you take some care of your GI tract. All right.
Okay,
so majors for your immune system. First, what are they? Vitamin D, vitamin A, vitamin C, and zinc. Then extras for it, glutathione, which is hard to get. We saw a liposomal glutathione that's exceptional, and that will be a good way to do it. Otherwise, you have to take N-acetylcysteine. But that glutathione is huge. It goes down with age. It controls detoxification. It controls immunity. So it's something you want in there. As you open up your liver, bringing glutathione levels up, it also controls telomeres, which are part of aging, and it's a big driver for the immune system. All right, so glutathione's an esoteric one that's really good. Elderberry is a fruit extract that is exceptionally good for creating immunity to upper respiratory infections. And so that's a big one right now. But why are these all really important? Vitamin D is number one here. Vitamin D levels, I think they're measured in nanograms per deciliter, and you should be 60 or above. And right now, most people, unless they're supplementing it, this time of the year will be around 20 or below. Vitamin D activates your immune system to be able to kill everything that's inside. But on the other side, it activates the inflammatory control. So you need an immune system that knows where to put a fire on and knows where to put a fire out, that it can generate inflammation but control it. And that's what vitamin D does. In fact, most people know it more for its anti-inflammatory activity, but it is very strong as an antimicrobial, and especially in the lungs. So you should, the dosing for vitamin D is in IUs. Those are international units. You should be on 5,000 per day, absolutely. Now, if you have not been on that, you can be on 10 to 25,000 a day for a week to 2 weeks to bring your levels up quickly, and then drop down to 5,000 a day.
And Chris, excuse me for interrupting, but would you be sure to tell everyone about the importance of taking vitamin K2 with vitamin D3 because of the calcium issue that is so critical to our health?
So in any one of these stories, there's a yin and a yang, just like there's sympathetic and parasympathetic, and just driving one side doesn't always do it. So vitamin D also is responsible for calcium movement and bone growth. But in excess, it can sometimes move calcium from hard tissues into soft tissues. And that's a bad thing. But vitamin K drives calcium back into the bones. So D and K together are fantastic for bone growth. And actually, I mentioned CBD to calm down your brain is actually good for bone growth too. So I do D, K, and CBD together for building bones. So if I said I want 5,000 a day of D, for K, if it's K1, we want 1,000 micrograms or 1 milligram per day. There's a more expensive form that's even better. It's called K2. And K2, we want 100 to 200 micrograms per day. And that's the preferable form. If you're getting, we have a D3, K2 where they're balanced right in the right ratio. So as you take more D, the K goes up with it and it's nice and balanced. Now, vitamin A is very similar, but vitamin A is very good for acutely developing immunity, especially to viral insults. And vitamin A in the IUs, 10,000 a day is a nice steady state, but when you're trying to get things up, you want 25 to even 75,000 IUs per day. Now, if you're up at that really high, like 75, that's only for like 3 days at a time. 25 you can do for 1 to 2 weeks, and then every day of your life you could do 10,000. So DNA. C, everybody knows vitamin C is great, and it's great for the immune system, and anywhere from 1 to 5 grams a day, and you can just continue with that. It's really, really good. We do things in what are called liposomes and nanoemulsion deliveries. It's a very high-tech delivery that absorbs right through your mouth, and as you're swallowing, it's delivering everything. So if your GI is not so good, you don't have to worry about the absorption. So that's Quicksilver Scientific makes those, and that's just a real high-end way to go. But these numbers I'm giving you will be good for everything. Now, zinc is super important for everything in your body and all your hormones, but really, really crucial for the immune system. In a time like this, you can do it. It's a little rough on some people's stomach, but if you can tolerate it, you can do 100 milligrams a day for 2 weeks and then drop down to 30 to 50 milligrams a day and stay like that for a while. And long-term, it's 10 to 30 milligrams a day. So acute, 100, subacute, 30 to 50, long-term, 10 to 30. And right now, I would load up with all that stuff.
And Chris, may I just interject for a moment and just a disclaimer that what you're saying is assuming kind of a one size fits all, and recognizing that every body is different. And so before anyone would embark on a supplement program, I would encourage them to speak with their primary physician. Wouldn't you agree with that? That if they're on some pharmaceutical drugs, could be.
Well, not for the vitamins. I don't, you know, you can
Okay,
go deal with that yourself.
No
And, you
contra-
know, you're going to go
Okay.
to your doctor and he's going to tell you something stupid depending on how he is. Like, well, the RDA is only 60 milligrams. They're thinking of moving it to 90 for vitamin C. That's not going to do anything for you. You listen to me. Now, the hormones, you need a doctor for that.
Okay.
You know, if you want to go beyond just bitters and opening up your liver, you're going to need someone to lead you through that. But the vitamins, these IU numbers I'm giving you, these have been figured out over decades, and these are very common knowledge. And you can go to any vitamin store and do this. And so that's why I'm not worried about giving you. I mean, this, you know, there's very individualized parts of biochemistry and there's very universalized parts of biochemistry.
Okay.
And so the vitamin stuff for now is not really a dangerous thing. Now, the last thing that I want to bring up is probiotics in the GI tract, and keeping a healthy GI tract is keeping a healthy immune system, and at least being on a probiotic. Now, maybe you want to go natural and you want to eat fermented foods like kimchi and sauerkraut. Fermented beet is probably my favorite, but those need to be live and still have live bacteria in them. Then yogurt. I mean, there are some very high bacteria yogurts that are good, but most people need to supplement with a probiotic. And if you're doing normal acidophilus bifidus based probiotics, you want to be on about 50 billion a day. If you're having GI issues, you may be doing up to 150, 200 billion a day, but 50 billion a day is a real dosage that really will change your GI tract. Now, there's a different kind of probiotics called spore-based probiotics. There's one called Megaspore. There's another called Terraflora. You'd probably have to get those off the web versus a health food store. Those are only 4 billion a day, but they have a different activity. And so those are very good, but that's a lower dosage. So 50 billion for most of the ones you can get at the health food store. They should always be in the refrigerated section. And if you're getting the spores, about 4 billion a day. And you might have to start lower, like 1 billion for the spores and work up, or for the regular ones, maybe a quarter of that dose and work up, because all these changes start happening as what they're doing is they're establishing the right bacteria in your GI. It's not necessarily that they're establishing those ones in there. They're controlling the environment so the good ones grow and the bad ones go away. And your immune system all starts in the gut, where the immune system's deciding what's going through there is good or bad, and then cascades through the body. All right. So we started at the head. You know, your stress is going to just totally screw your immune system. And we ended up at the GI where it all begins. So hopefully in all that, you've gotten some things to work with. Our website, you know, I talk a lot to doctors. You can find me on YouTube, the Quicksilver Scientific YouTube page, and you can watch all my videos there. They're a little high end, but if you like high end stuff and me lecturing to doctors, it's fantastic. You'll learn everything you ever wanted to learn about the liver and immunity and stuff. But hopefully what we've given you here are some things that you can act on.
Actually, Chris, I think that you have an ability as a scientist to bring information to the lay person as well as to the other scientists and medical professionals. So I want to congratulate you for being able to explain things in a context that we can all understand. And now it's up to us. I just wanted to say before we open it up to questions that this morning, I was on the webinar that was sponsored by our international forum. And of course, these are women from all over the world. We have over 7,000 members. And we talked about mental health. So it was hot on my agenda for today, for our discussion. But they basically said very much of what you said about the fight or flight. And that we are, you know, the other part of this is specifying to women and our needs that we are always trying to find answers for everybody. We're solution driven, and this is a stressor unto itself. And that in these times with the COVID crisis, we don't have answers. This is completely unprecedented. And we are navigating in waters we've never been in before. And this is basically causing a huge stress overload, not only for women, but for everybody. So they didn't have all the medical or scientific or supplement solutions. They didn't really focus on that, but they did focus on how fight or flight does affect our ability to function in the rest of our body. So thank you so much for sharing all this information with us today. I know you had to pack a lot into a short period of time, and I think we want to open it up to questions. Is Marcia there?
Yes, so we have, the first question is, does intermittent fasting need to be done every day, or can it be 2 to 3 times per week? And what is the preferred window of time for eating?
Yeah, that's a great question. So let me again define what intermittent fasting is. So fasting is not eating, right? And that's what breakfast, you fast, you break the fast from overnight. But all through time, one of the greatest healers ever has been fasting for multiple days at a time. But we don't necessarily need to go that far. Intermittent fasting means that we're taking the overnight fast and running it longer. And the time period between your last meal of the previous day and your first meal of the next day should be no less than 14 hours, but it's better to be 16 to 18 hours when you're doing that. It's giving a long period of time to clear out the intestines and clear out essentially carbohydrates running through the blood. What is happening? The carbohydrates stimulate insulin, and that stimulates things like storing energy and growth, but it blocks regeneration. So in that period where the carbs clear out, the insulin comes down, then the body starts regenerating itself. So the easiest way is to just skip breakfast. Now, it doesn't mean breakfast is the best one to skip or dinner is, but it doesn't work if you skip lunch, because you still have stuff from, you need a consistent period of time. Like I said, 14 hours is minimum, but really 16 to 18. Some people go as long as 20 hours and fit all their eating into a 4 to 6 to 8 hour window. And that is really regenerating. Now, there are things you can take in the morning that will accentuate that process. It's called AMPK activation. And some of these are things we think about for longevity, like resveratrol, or for blood sugar control, like berberine. Those are really good. I want to mention one thing for you to look for called quercetin, Quercetin. Quercetin, especially if you took quercetin and resveratrol, they activate and sort of hypercharge this fasting period. But at the same time, they're also what's called senolytics. As you get older, you have these cells that go senescent. So senescence is like in the fall when the tree leaves go from green to brown before they die, and they're in a senescent non-growing state. And the problem with senescent cells is they sing a song of inflammation to the rest of your cells. They're trying to recruit them into this slow death, and you want to kill them. It's called senolytic, and you stop that song, and then regeneration happens. And quercetin is one of the great senolytics. So if you take some quercetin and resveratrol in the morning when you're in this fasting, or at night when you're in this fasting period, it will accentuate all that. Now, she said, do I have to do this every day or just 2-3 days a week? The more you do it, the better, especially as we get older. I turned 50 last year. I'm 51 now, and I started doing intermittent fasting, and I started taking things to accentuate that. We have a product called Keto Before 6 that does that, because it has you keto all day, and then at dinner you eat whatever you want. And that really, really, really helped my energy stay steady all day. I realized that, breakfast I wasn't really recovering from. Yeah, I mean, I tend to do that Monday through Friday, and then on the weekend I'm with my kids, I eat all the meals, and it's a social thing. So you don't have to do it every day, but the more you do it, the better, and the longer you extend the fast, the better.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, we have a directed to Michele. Comment that you've aged beautifully and well. What have you learned over the decades? How critical is exercise?
Oh, I'm so happy you mentioned that, because there were two things that we didn't get to cover: food, nutrition. I think Chris obliquely mentioned, and exercise, which we didn't really get to. So I am a exercise fanatic, but I'm not out of control. But every day I do something that is a break from the mental exercise that I spend most of my day with. So physical exercise is very important. It's good for all those endorphins. It helps with the stress levels that Chris has been talking about. And it stimulates serotonin. Whoops, I lost you. Hold on.
We hear you.
Yeah, I know. Let's see if I can get you back. Okay, hold on a second. Yeah, there you go. It stimulates, and Chris, you can reinforce this, but you know, just a half hour daily of some form of physical exercise. Hiking is wonderful, gets you closer to nature, particularly with this COVID crisis. I found that being outdoors in the sunshine, getting that vitamin D3 and being near the water, if you have that benefit, but close to nature as possible, is multi-dimensional in the effect that it has. So bicycling, I do a stationary bike. I do an outdoor bike when I can. I do weights. I think free weights are very important. Yeah, so yes, I can't say enough about the importance of exercise. It's one of the building blocks of our health. And then the food part, she didn't ask that question, but I'll just take a moment. I said to Chris the other day, we can't talk about any of this without saying that food is the bottom line. It is our medicine, and you have to pick wisely. I always say, go to the outer perimeters of the store, of the grocery store. Forget the middle aisles, and you'll be okay. You get your fresh vegetables and your fruit, and hopefully, if you're buying beef or meat, you buy grass-fed and organic. And then fish, you know, make sure it's wild caught. So, I mean, these are just the simple basics, and keep the wheat, the gluten down, the simple carbs down, and honestly, you'll lose weight and you'll be happier that you took all these little simple steps. Did I forget anything, Chris?
No, but it all ties together. Now, if we take the discussion about fasting, well, why did we want to do the fasting? So there's this metabolic clarification that's happening during the fasting, and this AMPK activation. Well, guess what activates that also is exercise. And so you can combine the two. And if you do a little exercise during your fasting, you won't need as much fasting and won't need as much exercise, because they're overlapping and they're doing the same thing. Now, talking about things like the antioxidants, like vitamin C or vitamin E and vitamin A for the immune system, it's best to do those after you exercise. And so if you put your exercise and your fasting in the early part of the day, and then you take your immune supplements and your food later in the day, that'll work better. Now, another thing with that, the reason we're fasting is to keep insulin down. That means the more we keep carbs down, the less we have to focus on our period of fasting. And so if you can pack the carbs into one of the meals, not spread throughout the whole day, you'll do better. This is the whole reason why the keto diet was so good, why people lost so much weight, why they lost cardiovascular risk factors, because keeping insulin high all day just covers you in goo, and it doesn't allow you to clean everything up. So here we have exercise, fasting, carb-free, all doing the same thing. They can all be brought together into the same section of the day to be more powerful. And then the supplements that drive them, resveratrol, quercetin also being a huge one for immunity. There's other things like berberine, silymarin, milk thistle, very good for your liver, also activating all those pathways. And vitamin D also activates those pathways. So if you see the things that are all doing the same thing in different ways, it's like, oh, okay, now I can organize myself to get the most out of it.
You know, this is almost like getting your PhD, because if you start in kindergarten, you're going to have the basics, some of the basics you mentioned today. If you want to go to grade school, you're going to add a few more. Then you go to high school, you add a few more, college, a few more. Everything you've said today has incredible validity, but it can be very confusing to people. And it even confusing just to walk into a vitamin store and try to pick which one you want, or go on Amazon. You know, you have to be baby steps in a program and have it start working for you, and then you keep adding layers. So I hope you agree with that, Chris, because I know that, you know, people can be daunting. It can be daunting to have all of this information and not know where to turn first in order to help oneself. So I think those basic program that you mentioned with the A, the C, the D and K together, if that were just what somebody could take away from today, and then I would throw in those
do that
hormones.
and skip a meal.
And skip a meal. Yeah, I agree with you. Skipping a meal really does help. And I don't know too many people that don't want to lose 5 pounds here and there, right? So it does help with weight management.
Yeah,
and,
but your mental clarity and your metabolic clarity is vastly better. I mean, you just try that. It's just amazing. You got to get used to it socially. You know, it might take a week, but all of a sudden you're like, God, I feel great.
Right, exactly. Okay, Marcia, sorry.
No, not at all. Actually, so one of the comments we received is whether or not we might be able to get a summary of the suggested vitamins and tests in case our notes are not very good. And the related comment is that this person has heard that you should only take vitamins if you are deficient. So do you have any thoughts on that?
Everybody's deficient. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just what it is. There are, you know, long-term there was a time where everybody got way into vitamins and they overdid certain ones, and that causes just as much problem as underdoing them. But vitamin D, the deficiency there is just epic, and it's been documented left and right. There's a guy named Michael Hollick from Harvard Medical School who started all the discussion on that HOLLYC, I think, I forget, or YK. And you can read about that. And this is just deeply, deeply documented. During the recent crisis, it's brought up left and right. And what are they treating with in hospitals, like emergency wards and the units where they have the COVID patients? They're using IV vitamin C, and a lot of them are using vitamin D. So the recommendations here are very solid, and very, very few people eat a balanced enough diet to get all of the vitamins that they need that we used to get. I mean, that, you know, just because you can get some vegetable in from Chile that's been grown in a hothouse down there doesn't mean it's got anything in it.
Well, I think you just brought up the most important point, which is that from the time our grandparents and great-grandparents were farming, the soils have been depleted, and so we don't have the nutrition coming from the soil. Our water is tainted, and by the way, we didn't really mention water at all today, but that's another key element that we need to be focused on is drinking purified water. However, let's not get off on that one right now, but just say that suffice it to say that our food supply is not as nutritious as it was hundreds of years ago, and so we have to look for other ways to supplement. And what you just said is very true, Chris.
So that's it in terms of the chat questions. Does anyone on the line, anyone else who would like to ask a question, please feel free to unmute yourself or wave and I can unmute you.
And Marcia, I would say one other thing on the list of the supplements and all of that. I know you're going to have a recording, correct, of
Yes.
this. So for people who were not able to attend, or for those who did attend who want to here again. So I would invite anyone who is listening again, who has questions, to please just give me a call. My phone number is in the directory, but I'll give it to you right now. 808-639-0904. And again, I am not a medical doctor, but I have certainly an experiential background in much of what Chris has discussed today. And I certainly can vouch for the importance of all the things that we talked about. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. And maybe this is a question to anyone in San Francisco, but there was a question of where are there good outdoor areas for exercise walking in San Francisco? Because there people have to continually juggle around people to keep physical distance. And so these San Franciscans who have some suggestions, please provide them.
Well, I live in Marin County, so I can't be helpful with that, except, and I'm not sure, is Golden Gate Park even open?
I don't know.
You know? I don't know what parks. I know they've slowly been opening some in Los Angeles where I was just living, but oh, I just see Eleanor saying that Lake Street is closed. So yeah, I don't know where, I have no suggestions there unless you do, Marcia or Barbara.
I'm not a San Franciscan.
Okay. All right. Well, I think then that we've come to a very lovely close. I've enjoyed being with all of you. You're all very important to me, and your health and wellness, of course. And I'm sure that the information that we shared with you today will be a launching pad. However, you have to decide what works for you and how you want to apply that information to your own lives. So thank you very much. And Dr. Shade, thank you for taking your time out of your busy schedule and being with us tonight.
Michele and Dr.
Michele.
Shade, thank you so much. This was fantastic.
Thank
Oh,
you, Barbara.
Okay, thank you so much. Take
Thank
care.
you.